Let's talk about the risks on the ground right now, the state of the ceasefire and the state of the blockade. What's your assessment of things?
So the ceasefire is holding, which is a good sign. Establishing the ceasefire was a positive step by stepping off that escalatory kinetic ladder that we had been on. And an extension of a ceasefire, I think, is a sign that perhaps there's some productive dialogue going on in back channel. If it were increasingly frustrated, we would probably see an additional bold action by the United States. In terms of the blockade, I think that's a very bold move, an attempt to decline or decrease some of Iran's leverage and to deny them revenue, whether that's from the toll that they exact on passage of vessels or from their own exports. And ideally, that will bring them to the table to make additional concessions. I have no doubt about the U.S. Navy's ability to execute this mission with the same kind of competence, professionalism and precision of all the missions they've performed throughout this campaign, but it does not solve the transit problem of vessels that remain stuck in the Gulf.
Well, in the past, we've seen the Fifth Fleet escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Can we see that?
That is certainly possible. It's another feasible option. It's resource intensive, and so now there is another carrier, as I understand, steaming towards the Gulf. Both the blockade and escorts are resource intensive. It's not just the ships that are escorting them. Destroyers, fighter cap, combat air patrol, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, minesweepers. And even if we are escorting vessels, particularly if we're the only nation that's doing it, we can't escort the same number of vessels that previously were flowing through the Gulf prior to this conflict.
So the volume will be low. But if the U.S. Fifth Fleet were to do this, when could they actually start doing it?
I think if they want to impose both the blockade and escorts, we'd probably want to wait for the arrival of the additional carrier strike group that, as I understand it, is on its way there. I think it's important to note, though, that Iran's ability to choke off the Gulf is very broad. It's really based on a perception of risk. It doesn't take a lot of resources on their part. It's not hard to drop a mine or two, or even to say, we've dropped mines over here, and then someone has to verify it, demonstrate the feasibility of sailing through there. And the decision to flow through the Gulf, as you know well, it's not a military or a political decision. It's an economic decision based on commercial risk.
Unless there is a transformation in terms of the way that trips transit through the Strait of Hormuz, will things ever be the same again because of this perceived risk that is now in the forefront of every shipping company's minds? Yeah,
I think perceived risk is exactly what it boils down to. And so there's much that must happen to lower that perception. The ceasefire is an important step because right now we don't see anyone, taking any hits from drones and missiles, et cetera. Also, progress on the diplomatic front would be an important confidence builder. But this period of risk, or this perception of risk, extends beyond shipping. We've seen strikes against airfields, against, Dubai. There's much that will need to be done to lower that temperature across the region. And I know that our Gulf partners are very interested in seeing this resolved so that they can resume a normal commercial environment.